Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the second in our series of webinars on the 2013 Pennsylvania Youth Survey, also known as the PAYS. Today, our topic, we will focus on the PAYS workbook and guide that was created by the PAYS team that is represented here. My name is Phyllis Law, and I'm one of two community care consultants here with the Evidence-Based Prevention and Intervention Support Center, also known as the Epicenter. We are a center that's funded by the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency and the Department of Public Welfare. We are charged with providing training and technical assistance to evidence-based programs and community coalitions, as well as to support juvenile justice system improvement all across the state of Pennsylvania. We are a project of the Prevention Research Center, which is housed in the College of Health and Human Development here at Penn State University. As you can see, this is one of a series of webinars that we have scheduled now through December. We'd like to thank those of you who have already pre-registered for all of the webinars in the series, but we have included the link here, so if you would like to join us and register for the other webinars, we would appreciate it if you did. Today we're going to talk about, primarily, as I mentioned before, we're going to talk about the PAYS guide and workbook. We're going to spend about 30 minutes walking through that. I would like to begin our conversation by talking about our online toolbox and the websites that are related to that. There's been, I think, a little bit of confusion about that. And then from 11:30 to 12, we'll be answering questions that we have not possibly answered through the presentation. I encourage you to write your questions in the Q&A pod, and I will address them towards the end, again, if I don't address them during the presentation. Before we get started, though, I would like to take a poll, and I'd like to see how many people are actually viewing, as we many times have sites that have multiple participants. So if you could just click how many that are viewing the webinar with you, that would be fantastic. Great. So it looks like most everybody has, there is one of you watching, which is great. This really does help us kind of get a good count of how many actually are joining us. As I'd also like to point out before we get started, towards the left in the bottom pod, you will see several links that will be available to you, and in the recording will also be available and sent to you afterwards so that you will have them at your disposal. One of the important ones is the very first link there is a webinar evaluation that we do hope that you will fill out with for us before at the end of the presentation this morning. Okay, first thing I want to do is I want to walk through and kind of just do a very quick explanation of some different websites that are available. The PAYS team that you saw before, we spent a long time working on a lot of tools. There's a lot of input that's been put into these, and there's a lot of different places to go and get them. As I said, we can I'd like to just kind of clear up where we're going with things. The PCCD PAYS website, there is a new link. I really will stress that please be patient with this site right now. PCCD is working very hard to improve their site, but you can see here it is now pays.pa.gov would be a direct link to PCCD. Many of you have already had a chance to work with the online tool itself. This is through the Bach Harrison website. And if you recall, Bach Harrison is the vendor who has administered the PAYS. And this web tool, this is where you can go in and you can cross-tabulate and work more closely with your data. Now, you can go directly there using the website listed here. But what we've tried to do here at the Epicenter is collect all of these sites so that you can get a feel for where we're going. And this is the website that our Epicenter website is epicenter.psu.edu/PAYS. And I'd like to take you there just very quickly so that we can, you can get a feel for what we have what we have to offer here. You can see here clicking on this is the page homepage, if you will, for the Epicenter. If you click on the PCCD site, you see you will go out. This is the this is what the site will look like. One of the main pieces of information that you can get here is the state report as well as the county level reports. There's also a lot of other information here that was leading up to the administration of PAYS. You can also get to the online tool, which if you click here will take you directly to the Bach Harrison site. And this, as you can see up here, is the website that we have listed before. So you can see there's a lot of different ways to get to where we want to go. Now, this also listed here are the webinar series that if you click on Learn More, you can register there. We've included that link previously for you. And then also the guide and workbook, which I'm going to walk you through here in just a minute. Now, as we are working through this morning, I think it's one of those things that going in and really just working through these websites, it's one of those that we all are trying to provide really good information for you. And but if you have questions, one of the things that you can definitely do, and I'll show you on our site, if you have a question once you start working, I'll show you how to do that. But let's get into and talk about the PAYS guide and workbook. Just to give you a little bit of background about these materials that you can look at, and you can see that we were asked, there were three, as you see at the bottom of your screen, there were three state departments that helped us invest in the PAYS this morning, or this year. We just moved the microphone, so hopefully y'all can hear me a little bit better now. But the three departments that invested were the Department of Education, the Department of Drug and Alcohol Programs, and the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. Well, one of the requests of the Department of Ed was that there be a guide and some kind of materials that would help schools better understand and use this data that is very valuable come out of these reports. Because we all are aware that many times these reports would come out, someone would look at them, and then they would go on a shelf and remain in a library of information. So what we've done and what the team came together, we created a PAYS guide and workbook. And you can see here the objectives of using this PAYS and guide. These are some really good steps to understanding what you will find there. The first thing we're going to talk about is how to develop a team to analyze it. We're going to look at strengths and challenges. We're going to look at the PAYS will help you determine, or the guide will help you determine your priorities. We'll help you look at some existing resources and also explore evidence-based programs to ensure that what you're doing is really increasing your level of confidence, that you will have some positive long-term outcomes. It'll help you understand how to better create a comprehensive school plan, also share your data, and then weave this school plan into a larger community prevention framework. So in looking at all of that, the thing that's important to keep in mind is that we were asked to create a how-to guide. And you can see here it says, this is the cover pages from both of our publications. You can see here that it's the how-to guide for school professionals. One of the things that we realize, though, is that we know that we are serving a large community of folks who are looking for information on how to use the PAYS. The guide was created on the Communities That Care model, and we've basically taken that model and put some very simple steps to help us really understand how to use the data. But then as the team was working together and we were creating this guide, we also found that we needed a workbook as a supplemental to help us take the information that we were providing in the guide, but then also to have some worksheets to help put paper to pencil, if you will, to put the guide to work, if you will. Up here, you will see this is your PAYS website that we just mentioned. I'm going to take you back there now. Hold on just 1 minute. Tanya is here helping us. Okay. Are we good now, Tanya? Okay. So, now that we're on the website, the other thing that we noticed and we realized was helping folks have a multiple different ways of using the guide. So, if you go back to your page, we're here on the Epicenter site, and we go down and we click on the link. It'll take you to the guide and workbook. The first thing I'd like to point you to is there's two PDFs listed on this first page. The first is the guide, and the other is the workbook. Now, we know this is, if you click on the PDF, you're able to download it and print this out. Many of us like to have something in our hands when we're actually working. This will show you that basically what the guide will look like as I'm scrolling through here. The thing that what I'm going to walk you through today is actually the web application of the guide, and so that you have that option as well. But you will see here as I'm scrolling through the guide itself, you will see that there are red boxes within the guide. And this is where you have a link that takes you to the workbook. And this shows you within each section if there's a workbook page or maybe some supplemental material there if you'd like to dig a little deeper into your analysis. This helps you do that. So clicking on the workbook, one thing to keep in mind, it does kind of look the same here, but this is your workbook. The other thing to keep in mind too, again, because it was a request by the Department of Education, most of the language is geared to school professionals. However, this has application on many different levels. We do have some of our coalitions have taken this to kind of help guide their communities that care work. We've had organizations, providers who have also taken a guide and put it to work to help them better understand the needs of their communities when they're determining what services they will offer. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there that so you can have an understanding of where we are, as far as how you could use it and kind of where you are in your world, if you will. Okay, so if you've had an opportunity to download the guide or the workbook, you can follow along with me. The thing that you will notice as we're going through with these different links, each one of these links is basically a different section or page within the guide. If you click on the top, you will see, if you flip to page 1 in your PAYS guide, you will see that the language is exactly the same. This is a great way to help you understand. When you click on next, this takes you to page 2, which helps you and helps really put some words and helps you understand the importance of why the PAYS data is valuable. One of the things we were very conscious of as we were developing the language in the guide was to really get some good snippets of information that if you're doing a presentation or if you're working with different groups, it's some language here that you can pull out to help you talk about the work that you're actually doing. Now, if we go on to the next page, this talks about the getting started. And it talks about, what do you need to know to get started to best analyze your PAYS data. Now here, just to replicate what was seen in the workbook, you will see there is a link here that you can click on that will take you directly to all of the workbook pages themselves, all right? And you'll see, if you click on each section here, it'll take you back to the guide. If you scroll down here, you'll see that the sections have the supplemental materials that are referenced in the guide, and you can click on. And I'll talk about these a little bit more a little bit later on. But as you go through, this is just a little bit of information on the front end to introduce you to the process. Okay, so now we're getting into section 1, and if you're following along with a paper with a printed out version of the guide, we are on page 5 of your guide, and you can see here that each one of the sections basically have 2 to 3 steps that will help you really understand in a very simplistic way of how you need to pull a team together. You can see that the first thing is looking at developing a team. Doing the work and analyzing the PAYS through the years, the thing that we found, the more diverse your team, the better your analysis will be. It helps you kind of think about when your team comes together, what kind of work needs to be done. So it doesn't, the tasks don't seem quite so daunting. And also, you have different people who bring different skill sets to your table. So we really want you to take a look at that. And then the third step that we suggested for this section is that you really familiarize yourself with the PACE materials and resources before you come together as a team. And it's something that we really worked hard to make it all of the materials accessible to help you understand. So this is our first checkbox, or our first red box, if you will, to look at the supplemental materials that are part of your guide. Now, these three attachments here are a couple of caveats about them. These are actually supplemental materials. They are not part of your guide. These are materials that we felt, the team felt, that would really help you in understanding what the page was all about. If you click on these, again, just using this as an example, this will take you to some information within your guide to help you understand a little bit better about what's going on, but there's not an actual worksheet here. So as we're going through, this will take you through the first section you've worked through. You've gotten your team together, you've sat down, you've done a little research to understand what the page is telling you, you've read your report. And so now we're going to begin working on section 2. This is where the analysis actually begins. So in your guide, you will see on page 7, we're moving forward, you will see here again the language that's online here, and with your web-based guide that's here mirrors exactly what's in your printed paper version of the guide. You'll see here that, again, there are 3 sets. Again, the first thing that we want you to think about is, what are your students doing well with when you're looking at your behaviors. This isn't about, and we really wanted to stress, this isn't about focus on the negative. We want to focus on the positive as well, because all communities around the state all have good things going on, and there are very good uh, lots of good behavior. The students are making good choices and really are exhibiting some good behaviors. But we also know that we need to look at those behaviors that students are struggling with. Okay, so once you've kind of looked at those and your team has really broken this down, one of the things that we suggest when you are looking at and analyzing your page, we suggest that your team divide the sections up and maybe have a team member who they're more interested in looking at alcohol use and drug use more so than violent behavior. But once you've done that and they come back and you've looked at it and you've determined how this is working, we then want you to look at and go to step 2, because one of the most important parts of the PACE is analyzing your risk and protective factors. Because as you know, we need to really understand the causes of the behaviors that you are seeing, both positive and negative, because again, the protective factors, these are the things that will deter and help students resist problem behaviors. Risk factors, on the other hand, are factors that will increase the likelihood that students will exhibit antisocial behaviors. So looking at these, you need to have an understanding of protective factors that have a high percentage in your report. Those are strengths. Risk factors that have low percentages, those are also strengths. So we want this analysis to include a strength analysis, an analysis of your strengths. We also want you to look at the challenges where you need to work and you need to really focus your efforts, if you will. Now, in step 3, we want you to summarize your results. Looking down in the red box, remember this is your materials, you will see in your PACE workbook, I'm going to click here, you actually have an interactive document where this is a Word document that you can actually work on and okay, there it is. And that you can actually work and you can fill out and your team can fill this out. And this is, again, based on questions that were derived from the Communities That Care model. So we know that this is the kind of information that you need This is a really good way to help you also report your results, because one of the things that your team will determine is what's going to be the best way to get the word out there. Okay, so now going back, you work through your step two. Now we're going to look at your priorities. You know where your strengths are, you know where your challenges are in your communities, and now we want you to look at your priorities and figure out, looking at, if you go on in your guide, we now are on page 9 of your guide. And you will see here that there are several questions that we would like for you to do. But we know that the risk and protective factor priorities are where we need to start. And we've listed some questions here to think about as you're determining these priorities. And then we also, in step 2 of section 3, we recommend and suggest that you create measurable short and long-term goals. And we've listed here some ways to write these goals. The Section 3 materials in your workbook, you actually have a very, uh, there it comes. This is a really good resource to help you, and again, it's interactive because you can fill this out and use this the way that will best meet your team's needs. But this really asks some questions when you're looking at a risk and protective factors. Things to think about. Just because it's a high or low number doesn't mean that you necessarily are going to want to make it a priority. So the questions that are listed here will help you determine that. We also have a really wonderful, and I have to give on our team, Sabrina and Tanya, a lot of credit here. They put together a wonderful list of archival data sources that are going to help you determine what your priorities are. Because this is not just about the PAYS information and the words that are the information that comes out of the PAYS. It's also looking at other information that you have out here. And you can see here, this is a wealth of information in a one-stop shop to help you dig a little deeper when you're looking for those priorities. Then finally, you also in your workbook, you have a goal writing worksheet that will actually help you write goals that are well written, just as the example that's listed here. So we've worked through step 1 through 3. You've formed your team. You've looked at your data. You've determined where your priorities are, where you think you want to work. So now we need to think about what existing resources are already there that maybe we need to strengthen, or maybe we need to realign a little bit, or maybe we might need to look at another program or something else that might help us address that. This is not about going in and changing everything that's going on, because there's a lot of wonderful work that's going on out there, but it's to help you determine how that's going to work. Now, within step 3, you will see that with section 4, there are 4 steps. The first, again, with your resource assessment, it's very important that you look at who's on your team, because you need folks who understand and would know what's happening. We list some suggestions here. We want you to explore existing programs, policies, and practices. Yes, the work that we do is done to guide us towards picking effective programs and programs that will help us understand what we have, but it's also understanding the policies and the best practices that are going on in your community, and how all of these will affect and have a relationship to your priority. In step 3, we look at a gaps analysis. I'm sure many of you have done a gaps analysis in the past. You will see here, these are the levels of analysis that we suggest you look at. This is more than do we have it or do we not have it. It's looking at how effective are programs. Do they meet your demographic needs? Is there funding? Are there challenges to implementation? I mean, there's a lot of questions that can go in that can really help you align your resources in a very positive way. Now, and then finally, again, summarizing and reporting this information out, because a lot of times this kind of work has been done, but no one ever knows about it. So going down and looking at for section 4, you see there are 2 worksheets here that you, again, are very interactive, that will help you understand what you're working on. You will see here with your program analysis, these are very good questions to ask. How well will it work? Will this, and is there a program there? It may be that you don't have a program. So then when you going on to section 5, you will look at your pays and putting it into action. Now, this is where we really want you, and we always stress those of you who have worked and who are working with the Epicenter and have heard talks provided and presentations provided by us. The thing that we are really wanting folks to understand is this level of confidence and increasing that level of confidence that the work and the program and all of the efforts that are being put forward towards your priorities are going to make a difference in the long run. And in step 5, we help you understand this a little more clearly. This is about, again, applying these principles to what you have existing. Now, if you see that you don't have anything that is addressing your risk factors, we've listed here many different lists of evidence-based programs to help you explore what is going on and what could possibly provide your information. In step 2, we also, if you are a school and you are looking at creating a school-based um, priority, and even if you're not a school and you're a coalition, and you're working with a school and helping them with their data, working with developing a comprehensive school plan is very important. We worked with the positive behavioral support folks here in Pennsylvania, and we've provided some information on the model that is used that is very effective to help schools understanding a prevention plan within the school system itself. It provides a lot of information on that. We then go in and talk about sharing your data. Now, this is how you take that plan and you make it bigger. You look at prevention plans that are already in place with your community. You look at ways of how to share your information. Again, this is not just about looking at the negative but looking at the positive things that are going on. You see here that Communities and Schools of Pennsylvania is listed as they provide a leading a positive messaging campaign. And you can see the website's listed here. It's myvoicepa.org. It's a really good resource to help you share your information and learn a little bit more about that. And then finally, in step 4, as I was saying, you weave this into a bigger prevention plan that you have going on. Now, finally, you have there are 2 workbook pages that are listed here that will help you share your data, plan through how you're going to do that, help you develop a very basic communication plan around that. But we also have listed here 4 supplemental pieces of information that will help you dig a little bit deeper to help you understand where this will work and how this guide can help you in this process, can help you understand. Now, finally, clicking on your last page, this will take you to the page that I showed you in the beginning. This is all of the links that were listed in the red boxes. This is just a one-stop shop for those so that you can take a look at them. The thing I really want to stress here is that this is a guide that has, I think, and we have found in using it, we began when the PACE came out towards the end of May, or the 1st of May, we've been using it and we've had really great feedback of understanding how different people can use it and put the work into put the guidance to work. We really want to say that Epicenter is here to help you through this process. We want you to contact us if you have a question. And I really wanted to kind of point out this part of our website before we start our question and answer section. If you click on questions about the PACE, this is going to take you to a tab that will send a direct question directly to us. And it comes to a couple of us on the team, and then we then determine who would best help you in answering your question. So we really encourage you as you're working this process to help us, especially if you feel like you're getting bogged down and you're not able to move forward, because we can possibly help you out with that as well. So that was a very quick overview of what you can find online. I'd like to go back and open it up, and let's answer some of your questions and work on how and see what we can help you with. So did everyone? I know it was a very quick overview. Did everyone kind of get a sense that of how the pieces work together online as they were related to a paper, the printed out version? Okay, here's um, okay. So let's see. Can all of the worksheets in the workbook be downloaded at one time? Yes. The whole workbook will be, if you click on it, this is what will be printed out. Now you could go in if you only wanted to print off one sheet at a time. You could obviously do your print, print by page. But yes, they would all be printed out. That was a great question. Well, maybe I'll ask a question of the group. Has anyone used the guide yet? And if so, with whom? What group did they use? Okay, Lori. Let's see. Your question. How are these tools different from the Bach Harrison web tool? Great question, Lori. Thank you. The Bach Harrison tool, and to I'll take us back there so we can see the difference. The Bach Harrison tool is basically here to help you understand and really manipulate your data in a way that the best way to look at that is the guide is a big picture analysis of your overall data. With the online tool, playing one part of that if you want to dig deeper into understanding the relationships of your information. Because with the online tool here, you are able to go in and actually look at different categories. You're able to look at within your report. You're able to look at different variables within those categories, and you're able to create charts and graphs that will help you with your reporting and really help you paint the picture of your for your report and what your data is telling you. One of the most intriguing parts of the online tool is you are actually able to cross tabulate specific questions within I'm just clicking randomly here, everybody, within the report itself. So you'll be able to know how, in this example, how willing are you to try, and do you have younger siblings? So this will be able to help us have a better understanding. Did that answer your question, Maureen? One thing too, in talking about the cross tab in the Bach Harrison online tool, one of the things that we really wanted to stress with the use of the guide and the workbook, you can do as much analysis as you would like, with the idea being that at least using this process to help you understand what to do with your data. That's the most basic understanding use of the guide. If you want to take it a little further and be more formalized to help you with that process, we we'd like to have you use the workbook and use those materials that were produced to go along with that. Now, to help you with that, the next level would be including a real understanding and utilizing those supplemental materials that are included there to help you dig a little deeper. And then finally, this use of the web-based tool. This is a more advanced analysis that once you get into it, and I'll tell you, I've seen, and worked with groups where folks were a little, oh, we just want to do the bare bones, but once they got into this and they saw, wow, how one thing easily leads to another piece and one activity, by the end of it, they were really working at a very high level and really digging into their data to get a really clear understanding of what the report is telling us. So I kind of wanted to lay that out there so people could really understand that this is you can go from basic analysis all the way to a much deeper analysis. So, does anybody else have any more questions? Well, if we don't have any more questions, I'd like to say that please, as you are and really stress, I know I said it before, that as you are working through the and beginning your analysis, there is a lot of information out there to help you, as well as any of us on the PACE team. We are here to help you work through this because we know how valuable we work with the PACE every day in many communities throughout the state, and we see the value, and we want to enable and help folks really help at their level to understand what their issues are, understand where their strengths are, help celebrate those strengths. I wanted to just remind you these are the websites that we suggest that you take a look at. The PAYS toolbox that's listed there, the PAYS site really is a one-stop shop. You can get a lot of information from there. I wanted to remind you also of our webinar schedule. On the 29th, Sabrina will be talking to us about how to analyze your risk and protective factors. She'll be talking about the cut points and some of the different analysis from there. We'll also be moving through working with your media, and in October, we'll be talking about the highlights of the state report, which I think is very important. Towards the end of October and November, early November, Sandy Hinkle and myself will be talking about the grant writing and how this report will help you write grants and how it will help you with the different sections of a grant. And then finally in December, we'll be doing an overview of the questions that we've received. We'll be working through and we'll be soliciting questions from all of our different groups that we work with. Finally, and if you'd like to register and haven't, we really would encourage you to register for those. We hope to see you on the 29th. Please contact us if you have questions. Even if it's you just want somebody to walk you through what I went through a little more hands-on, that's what we're here to do. And finally, please remember, if you will, to click on the bottom in the pod and be sure to do our evaluation because it really does help us get to make things better and meet your needs. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And we'll see you on the 29th.